Okay, I believe we're live.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great. Okay. Thank you all. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, August 20th. We'll call it to order. The mayor is in the middle of city negotiations with the union, so he'll join us shortly. But until then, I will go ahead and get started. So those who can, please stand and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first order of business is our consent calendar, and under that is the approval of minutes. And I believe we had some folks who wanted to discuss them, so we can open it up to discussion about the minutes.
Okay, Madam Rob, I'm going to start for those, the one who sent out the email. As far as with the minutes, I just felt the minutes were incomplete. I mean, I checked with parliamentarians, monitor, what do you call it, the city, not the city solicitor, the town monitor, like it's August and stuff like that, and lawyers, and they basically said is it should be as accurate as possible. And I even went on with the Attorney General on the website and everything, and it quotes that this is a public meeting, and therefore the event should be as accurate as possible. And I just feel like I said, as far as with the meetings as they are standard right now, I'd have to do a roll call because I'm not able to agree to it. I feel they're incomplete.
So the only thing that I would say is that I recognize that the minutes are not supposed to, they're not supposed to reflect verbatim what's said during meetings, but instead more so what's happened. But I also think that as a committee person, like if I say that I want the record to reflect something that I'm stating, then I would appreciate it if it were in the minutes. So, and that doesn't have to happen often, but I felt very strongly about the goals as is, and I wanted that reflected. And I thought your suggestion was fine. It could have been worded differently. I could have worded it differently, so that's it.
My thought was send this to a committee and let them do some research of what like other districts are doing and things like that, and then kind of come up with a model from there and just go forward.
Stacy, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what came back as far as the minutes went. I saw the after conversations. So maybe I missed something. I saw your conversation on it. It's not verbatim, it's just bullets, but it also doesn't have to reflect as the committee agrees as a whole, because I'll say in the minutes of last month, there's something I've never agreed with, and I don't want my name on it, but it's just supposed to be small. It's not supposed to be a grandstand type of situation. And I'm not saying that that's what you were talking about, because again, I don't know what you're referring to.
So why don't I summarize a little bit? So the discussion came up around the piece where the committee was discussing my evaluation. And at the meeting, Aisha and Anthony both made commentary about not liking the goals, the district goals, and feeling like there were other things that should have been involved. And so when Robin captured those minutes, she articulated some school committee members felt, she gave kind of the general of my evaluation first, and then said some committee members felt that the district goals should have been more closely related to academics. And that's how she summarized what I think both of you were trying to articulate.
Well, that was like I said. Well, that was some of it. I mean, as far as can't speak for Aisha, but with me, but also too is, we talked about the perception of the admissions, of our academics, and how more people are going away from the public schools. And I think we need to be more focused on the goals itself, and having the kids want to come here for academics. We have a STEM school too, so it's not just about engineering. It's not about they're going there if they're going there for academics, and we've had discussions about discipline and so on. So
let me ask, would anybody be opposed that while we're in meetings, if if one of us felt that they wanted what they were saying to be reflected in the minutes, that they asked Robin at that moment. Would they be opposed to that as opposed to, if it's a point that they want reflected in the minutes, then I think that should be allowed.
Talking about her evaluation, if you two had that conversation as you think it could be, maybe something could be put in a little bit differently as going forward, we would like to discuss the district plan moving forward to maybe include A, B, and C.
But I guess the issue is the minutes.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I guess the point is
If you were
that,
making a motion, I would say absolutely. You made a motion, you seconded it, or if you brought up something, yes, your name should be attached to it. It was your idea or whatever, it should come out with your name.
Yeah.
Discussions, no lengthy discussion.
So I think the first in terms of processes outside of what's in the minutes, if someone has corrections, I think it's good that we include everyone. So for example, if I already crossed it off my to-do list to review the minutes and then someone went back in and added something, I'd like to know to make sure, someone said I said the sky was pink and it's not. So I think just making sure we're including each other if there's a correction that like I didn't catch, so I can do better on that. So I think that's on that side. In terms of the minutes, I think we don't have a standard practice. Sometimes we quote people, sometimes we don't. And I think that's okay. I think if someone says, hey, I'm reviewing the minutes, I want this point of mine to be more articulated, that's fine with me in terms of consensus. I would just, if it was okay for all of us to agree that doesn't become the standard practice every month where everyone wants to get quoted for everything they say, because then it would become a book, become a
Agreed.
transcript.
agreed.
And so I think,
And it's available on the
it's
Video,
recorded.
yeah.
And
but, right.
I think also our minutes are in good format. So one, that was my job before, was to review districts for the state to make sure they were operating under open meeting law. So for example, now we've added in our list of documents in the agenda that had to be included. It wasn't before. So we were in violation of open meeting law. So our minutes are good. They're just supposed to be a summary of the discussion. If someone feels their point wasn't shared, I'm perfectly okay with someone, every once in a while being, hey, elaborate on this. The one thing that always does have to be recorded is decisions made and action taken, including votes, which we already do. And so I think, as we all just know what needs to be included. And then I printed copies of the open meeting law handbook just for minutes if anyone wants one to see what has to be included. And we do include all of that. So that would just be my one. Let's include each other in emails if there's corrections, so everyone's aware. And then two, I'm okay with if someone wants to elaborate a point here or there, as long as it's not standard practice.
Yeah, me too.
And also too, maybe we can put in
That makes sense.
the minutes going forward that it's, like recorded on YouTube, the date of such and such.
It's,
Just- You know what I'm saying, in the minutes itself. So basically it's, the minutes are supported, or if you need to go,
You mean referencing in the minutes, but the date of the minutes is the date of the meeting.
well, we can put on it, it's also on like YouTube or,
yeah, that's in our agendas, and then we link directly on the website. I think that could be something that is on the agenda, but it's not really something that belongs in the minutes, because that's just a summary of what already happened.
yeah, wherever, with something where if we can refer to that everything is on,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be like the agenda, yeah, all the entire minutes is on.
Okay.
Right, that makes sense.
So I have two comments. One, I want to go to the accusation of us being out of order for open meeting.
Mhm.
Our attachments are all, we have always had the attachments,
Mhm.
always.
It's not the attachments, it's the list of documents seen, what they don't have to be.
But we've always been told it either needs to be a list or the attachments
Mhm.
itself for people to be able to view.
Well,
Because if
open
they had
meeting
the
law
list,
says list.
then they can ask for the copy.
Mhm.
So we've always included the copy of the actual attachments and not just a list, because if they're interested,
Yeah.
now they want the attachments.
Mhm.
My second thing is, I really, there's so many things that has come up. I really believe as a group, we need to come up with some type of protocol worksheet on how we do business, whether it's sitting in a room and how you want it set up, or how we want the minutes to be done and what we would like. Getting questions before the agendas come out. I think we need to sit down as this group and do a checklist of what we think we might need or we might not. And if we need it, how do we go forward with it?
Sorry, what do you mean if we need what? Like our operating procedures, you mean?
Whether it's how you want to sit in this room with an owl, or where does the superintendent sit if we're having a meeting? Many people don't have the superintendents and the student reps at the table. So all those, and those are just like public input, how we want to do deliberations at the school committee, just a list of things. And there is one on the MASC site for samples and beliefs. And I can send it to everyone, but I think we need to look at it as a whole for a change instead of individual personalities.
Yeah, if you could share that with us, I think that could be a good starting point for that discussion. Thank you.
Maybe
So-
that would be a good topic, if the retreat happens,
Yeah.
if there's a second retreat, to talk through all of those pieces. And even, to the point that I think, Anthony and Aisha were making, what happens when a new committee comes on and we're in year 2 of a 5-year plan? How do things like that happen because it's going to happen more and more, especially when the committee expands. And I, from a superintendent's perspective, it can be really disruptive when new people come and have completely different ideas and you're halfway down a path and you've done professional development. You know what I mean? Like you've been going in one direction. And certainly as a superintendent or even the assistant superintendents, I don't mind speaking for them. We want to do right by the school committee, but we sometimes get in a jam when the mission and the vision is different because of an election. And how we navigate that, I think, would be a great thing for the committee to think about as well.
So operating protocols.
Yeah. I have a few thoughts on that tie into the PD, but I'll wait till we get to that for the next agenda item. So I think good points there. So for the sake of the minutes, do we want to hold off to approve them next month, or was everyone able to see the redrafted version I sent of that one
I'm
sentence?
fine.
Yeah.
With tonight.
Okay.
Just only the information, I'm a little confused. If reading the minutes as presented, we feel slighted and or misquoted and or all of the above, could lead to my interpretation of what was said and what was interpreted. So you'll take as gospel because I object to it. I want it this way. Either that or we go with the meeting in verbatim.
That's a challenge.
It's contradictory to a point. They had a point they felt wasn't addressed properly, whether it was a plus, minus, or whatever contributed to it. We're saying collectively is that by all means, you can make a change. My understanding of a change in the minutes was when something was eliminated, not how it was interpreted, not how it was perceived, or not how. So I that's what I'm because I think any meeting we have, I was misquoted at a meeting that I made. They wanted to hang me. So you have a situation where is the line drawn? If the concerns are valid, which they are, then it's going to have to be verbatim. Whoever transcribes the minutes, it's going to have to be. And I think someone referred to, you're going to have volumes.
Yeah. So I think that the question here was, if someone is misquoted, then that means the minutes are incorrect. And when we are reviewing minutes, it's our job to make sure that they're accurately representing what was discussed.
But who distinguishes what the misquote is?
If it's about one person individually. So in this example, not to point you all both out, the quote was from one of the 2 members. So they wanted to correct that or expand on it for the record. So
And it's on stream. It's on YouTube. Do you know what I mean?
So somebody
So-
mentioned if somebody wants to go further, they can go research.
I
it
think if there was a
themselves.
dispute, if a dispute occurred as far as what was said and what wasn't said, then you have verification of that. And I don't think this issue is going to come up often.
lot.
I think it just did, and Anthony had, caught that, and I think that, I think we're making probably
A
much
mountain out of a
more it
molehill.
than we need to.
Mhm.
I think that, you know, Jackie articulated what we could do moving forward as far as,
Yeah.
Thank
you
you.
know.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think what was important for me was just to know that we all agree that if we start to say, oh, I want every brilliant idea I shared on record, then that creates a problem. But knowing that there's people have been quoted before, and so not eliminating that because then it would lack substance. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, but think beside, you know, I caught more because I spoke. But there could have been other efforts, you know, that someone else spoke. It's just the point is they are their minutes and they're on the record and it's law. So the point is we need to be as accurate as possible. We could be sued or something, but if we put on the agenda, like we turned around and talked about, saying all this will be on YouTube or in the meeting that's set going forward, that should cover us for any type of liability.
Yeah, and it's everyone's job to review the minutes.
Right.
So if there was a
Mhm.
mistake, people catch it. 'Cause it's a collective effort. So I
Right.
think everyone can focus on their quotes if they want to.
Right.
We all review the summative, and then as long as it's an accurate summary that the public can take, and we record votes, then we're aligned to open meeting law. Okay, so thank you all for that.
Just a personal question to Anthony. Where would I find minutes for the vocational? Because they're not online, and I was looking for something in particular.
They should be online. I'll check with them, but everything should
Board
be-
Talks is there, but it doesn't open up, so so I don't take up
I'll
everyone's
find out.
time.
I'll find out.
Thank you. The next is the warrants. Any questions or discussion?
There you go. I would ask it this morning. but
Go to
not
window.
did. That's a good point. The district-wide online survey services, what is that? Just
What page is that?
First page, fifth one down.
Survey Monkey,
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
That's what we use when we do parent surveys and student surveys and community surveys. And that's an annual fee for the district-wide account.
Okay, no, I'm just curious.
That's an annual fee for unlimited?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Then we
It's not
use it
bad.
and we're using it up?
Yeah, we use it because it automatically translates. So when
Yeah.
you go in to do a survey on Survey Monkey, you can pick which language you want it in. So it actually saves us money because we're not sending every survey out to be translated 4 times.
Great.
4-6, homeless living inside. I know that they have choice, if they move, they can come back and forth, but if they're living in Revere, why are we transporting them? There's like there's like 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah, it works both ways, Freddie. So what happens is when a student who is living in one community becomes homeless and is living in another community, they have the choice to go back to their
I
sending
realize
school.
that, yes.
The 2 communities split the transportation cost.
No, but this is saying homeless inside,
Mhm.
and then the amount of money in homeless inside. My interpretation is they're living in Revere and we're transporting them to
Correct.
school in Revere.
No, we are probably
In the
transporting them
hotel.
to school somewhere else.
Where they had-
Outside the city.
So they were-
They're living
they-
here, but going somewhere.
Yeah.
But we
They
do
might
split-
We do split it. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that with everyone, Diane?
Mhm.
All homeless?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So even if Canvas is here, we split with them and vice, okay.
Yep.
Freddie said it and I said, no,
wasn't
you're
sure.
wrong,
Thank you.
because he normally is, so.
If they were homeless living in Revere, they most likely wouldn't have transportation depending on what grade level
No,
they're
that's
in.
what I
But,
looked at
yeah.
that first. No, they may live next door to so-and-so, and the kids walking to school, but they're getting transported.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Don't use it against me.
Okay. Then we'll move into the financial report. There's quite a few sub-bullet points there. I want to take it away, Matt.
Sure. So the first report that you were given is the annual financial report. This is the one that just reflects our current year spending. We want to make sure that our series stayed in the black. We want to have a good feel for if there was surpluses, what had generated that. And this amount of money flows forward and contributes to what eventually becomes a reappropriation in the fall. So the big idea from the front page is simply that, and I just started working on the end of year financial report. So we know we're going to be close to that net school spending minimum. The biggest two surpluses was with our tuitions, and we corrected that this year in the budget. It's being driven by big increases in the circuit breaker reimbursement that's hitting for those tuitions. And then I know $2 million looks like a huge surplus from our instructional series, but that's about as close as we can come given all of the transients and LOAs and resignations and time taken to fill other positions and unspent costs and summer programs and things like that. We were pretty close with a couple of these, so we'll keep an eye, especially on the 5,000 series this year. And that front page is simply saying, hey, in working through the current year, this is how we did. So that's the big picture. I can take any questions on any details. We're putting the red in we're putting the deficits in red so that you see them, but don't forget that at the end of the year, there's dozens of these accounts that go slightly over, and Peter pays Paul to cover within the series. But if there's any questions on the details, I can answer those.
And they're looking at a black and white copy, just so
I
you
was
know.
gonna say, is it
Yeah.
great?
No.
Yeah, it's, so the, what
Oh,
Matt's
okay.
referring to is negative is in parentheses. Yeah, those are the negative balances.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. I'm getting them in living color.
Any questions on that? Okay, so then, can you walk us now through the carry forward estimates and the proposal from the superintendent?
Okay, so the report that we just reviewed is definite. The report that we're reviewing right now is my best attempt at the end of August to say, when we deal with this year's funding, the previous year's liquidations, and the district reserve that we've been amassing, what will be available to us that we'll have to reappropriate in the fall. The reason I try and do this work before the fiscal year is closed is so that we can begin to have conversation on some essential things before school starts in a week and a half, and feel confident about what may be there. So the big thing, I can answer any questions about this front page. The big thing to see is where it says projected carry forward down at the bottom for net school spending eligible costs, and it says $8.8 million. So what we're saying there is we knew that we needed to generate at least $8 million of net school spending carry forward to deal with ESSER 3 coming off and teachers coming in and using that for classroom teacher instructional purposes. We agreed to that in the budget that you voted. The 883 is our best guess today at saying that's additional funds that
663.
No, which one?
no.
Oh.
Where you see the
Oh,
eight-
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
where you see the 8,883,000.
Yes.
So when you see that number,
Yep.
the first 8 million is accounted for. You've already planned on what you're going to do with it.
Mhm.
The remaining 880,000 and change should be available to you either to add to district reserve or to spend on things that didn't make it in the budget that we worked on in April and May. So that's the surplus that we're seeing that will be available to school committee and superintendent to reappropriate on things that are important to you in the fall. I want to tell you now, because there's always some things that would be helpful to agree on so that they're in place when the kids get back. As you move your eyes forward, the 663,000 of carry forward from non-eligible funds, that reverts to the city because it's their money. We spent it for them. And so if there is a surplus there, they have to get it back. And then you can see that the total, comparing the 9.5 million of both eligible accounts, the final column at the top, you can see it says including the district reserve. So that grows by 10 million. So we have done a budget this year and gotten to this point without having to begin to dip into our district reserve. That was our goal. And so that money is going to flow into this school year. And in February, March, April, when we begin our budget and doing our budget work, we will know, don't forget, we've reserved $10 million. So if our first draft of the budget shows a deficit, we're not surprised. We know that at some point we're going to begin dipping into that. But it was really,
And hopefully our goal is that we won't have to touch that until FY 27
Yes.
when SOA runs out.
What's the max we can have in our district reserve?
there's no maximum, but it cannot be generated by missing net school spending by more than 5%. So we can't take a year and say, hey, let's like barely spend any money and only spend 87% of our net school spending requirement and a massive big savings that we can then have a safety net going forward. So the question
Do it a
is
little
not,
bit at a time.
the question isn't how large can the district reserve get? The question is, how are we amassing it?
Mm.
And that's where the handcuffs would be.
So like the
But it-
extra 883,
hmm
807, we could put that into the district reserve
We could, yep,
and we would still be compliant.
yes. And we might decide we want to spend some of it and save some of it. I think a simple way to think of the reserve is that we never want that to be more than 5% of the total budget.
Okay.
And what's helping us right now is because we're in the middle of the SOA dispersal of money, our budget is going up significantly every year, which is what's making that 5% become bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're able to put more away. But once SOA stops, that's where we're really going to hit that funding cliff. And if we're not careful about that, then it would be disastrous for the district.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, we've said it before, but in a season where district after district is in the news for layoffs, for cutoffs,
Mhm.
because they're in a deficit, the work that you all have done and Matt, the way that you've carried our district and we as a committee, how we've been good stewards of our resources, I think just reminds me how much I appreciate the talents we have in our district because we're not yet another one that has to lay off teachers or cut a club because we're good stewards. So kudos to you there. And I had a question, or when do we kind of like vote and decide? Is it September or October and how to use if we want any of the carryover?
So we won't formally be able to do that carry forward appropriation, most likely until the October meeting.
Okay.
We have to give the city time to formally close the FY24 books in the system and have all of that be certified. We can tonight in conversation say, hey, we know it's going to be in that $800,000 range of what's available to us. There may be a few things that have come up between your vote in May, or was it early June, and the start of the year to say, we know that we're going to mobilize some of this money for that. It will be available. Don't wait until late October to make those commitments. We can do that in conversation, knowing that this is going to come, knowing that when you take the formal vote, I'll begin to put that list together of where that funding would go.
And what are some of those needs, Dr. Kelly?
So some of them are things that we've already talked about. Like one of them is the new locks at the Lincoln School. We want to replace all those doorknobs to make them compliant with the flip locks. The second one is at the Paul Revere School, as has been a persistent problem. We have a couple of class sizes in grades 2 and 3 that are really large. And Mr. Coyle has requested 3 part-time paras to help assist with those classes. A third one is, so how we have security people at the front desk in each school? And then I think it was 1 year or 2 years ago, I forget now, you approved a position called campus supervisors at the high school, which was a more extensive role. It included campus security, but they did above and beyond that. And so they had a higher salary, and it was maybe a person who could be more dedicated or do some more advanced work. And the middle schools would like to model that. I mean, ideally, I don't know that you would go for this. Ideally, they would like to have an operations person like you approved for the high school who can focus on student engagement, attendance, and assessments. That's an administrative position. It would be expensive.
Is that Mel?
That's Mel. That's what Mel's doing at the high school. But short of that, it would helpful if they at least could convert their security person into a campus supervisor and have them do more of that student engagement and calling home when the kids aren't coming to school. Just they, what they've said is they could attract maybe a different kind of person to stay in that role longer term if the salary was higher. So I don't know if you want to discuss it all between those two things. And then just the last thing I'll mention is redoing the district improvement plan. We'd like to hire a consultant to do that this time. We did it ourselves last time, but I just want to make sure that everybody's feeling like it's a worthwhile process and that people are engaged in the right ways, and it's not Diane Kelly up here making it up on her own, which I think maybe is shivering.
I'm just
Yeah.
raising,
They will
but continue.
anyhow.
Um,
Doesn't matter.
I think we could probably do that for about $40,000, and I think it would be money well spent if it leaves the community feeling more engaged in the process and like their voices are part of what we're doing.
What companies, are there local companies that do that?
There are a few of them that do it. We met one down at
Yes.
at the MASS
Mhm.
conference, and we've reached out to them. We're gonna get back in touch. We'll get multiple quotes. It's not something that we'll just do,
No.
you know, without doing the research, and we'll talk to other districts and see who they've used.
I do have a question. These all seem like good things, like good initiatives. I guess my only question is that are we doing any type of analysis on how we're going to sustain all of the positions that we're adding? Like we're talking about, I get worried when we're talking about that money's going to become an issue at some point, and I just want to know how far forward are we looking? Like, are we projecting? Do you know what I mean? That yes, we can sustain like this position every time we hire somebody. Can we sustain it? Like, you know, how far in the future are we looking to make sure that?
So right now we're looking, we think the $10 million that we have in the district reserve will extend us out 3 years after SOA. So that gets you to 2030. After that, if there's not some kind of change at the state level, which there's been talk for years about, increasing the amount of money that goes into Chapter 70 from the millionaire's tax and other pieces like that. If the state doesn't decide to do something, then
Reevaluate.
you'll have to reevaluate. And at that point, it will be a decision about which positions,
Prioritize.
yeah, can we keep and which ones do we need to let go?
Yeah, I mean,
Through you to Matt, where we're giving money back to the city,
Yes.
can they come back with dibs on surplus?
No. So the reason that I'm breaking this report out now, the way you see it in these 4 columns, is to be explicit that that second column is dealing with the money that the city embeds in our budget and we spend on their behalf, primarily around transportation, a little bit of capital. And so any surplus generated from those funds,
That's what,
it reverts back.
right, but I'm just saying, if someone got creative and said, well, wait a minute, you know, you're looking, we're funding this, what about, you got your own surplus? So there's no dibs on them coming after.
Right. You're speaking to the real bottom line of why net school spending law was written.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be
Yeah.
completely
Yes.
illegal.
If we began to spend way over and above what the net school spending requirement is, as many districts do, then that amount of money can be talked about. But since we're budgeted right at the net school spending minimum, then the funding that we are given, if we don't spend it, it has to flow back to us just to meet the requirement each year.
Thank you.
I mean, just on the campus position, what did we
Mhm.
budget for money for salary?
So if we just did moving from a security person to a campus supervisor, it would be a total of about 40,000, because it would just be bumping salaries. it's about $14,000 more for a campus supervisor than for a security person. So over the 3 middle schools, it would be a total of about 40,000. If we wanted to do the administrative positions, that would be more. It would probably be about 350,000. It would give the principals the capacity to have an additional person, another administrator who's doing evaluations, who's really monitoring the students and their behaviors and all of that stuff. So it would definitely give them some more capacity that I know they're craving.
Yeah.
And did you mention they would include that they speak more than one language to communicate with parents when calling home?
If they were the campus supervisor, yes, yeah. If it was the administrative position, that wouldn't necessarily be a language person, but the security person and the parent liaison would still be required to have language capacity.
Ms. Boswell and then Ms. Hildebrand.
So as I brought up the minutes to Richie and he passed them on to you as far as school nursing goes,
Mm-hmm.
still need to have a deep discussion on this. I was gonna read the minutes at our meeting at 6. And the necessity in order to keep our nurses,
Mm-hmm.
we need to have sufficient amount of nurses. So I would like that thought kept in the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Does that, oh, yes.
And then my last comment was, I might be in the minority here, but I just have little faith in consultants, and I often feel like they're a waste of money. So I don't want to dissuade you. I think you should get some numbers, but I also think that maybe we could form a committee like we do with the handbooks and,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else. I think nobody knows us better
Mm-hmm.
than we know ourselves and what we want and what we need. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay.
I will say they did a great job prior with the community. And I will say it was a lot of work. It was easy for me to just show up and listen.
It was great. We had over 100 people that came,
Every
and it
time.
was awesome.
Every
And
time there was a lot.
yep, and they stayed with it, and they really helped us think through what the priorities were. But
But to get some assistance, I think could be helpful because now you want to think outside the box and not just the Revere way. So I think it's helpful to get some new innovative ideas.
we can look into it and discuss it further.
Mr. Sinell?
And Jim, and Kelly, you're talking raising salary on these positions, you're talking evaluations. What's the requirement for the job? I mean, is it a college degree? Is it, you're giving them more responsibilities at higher money. But I mean, you've expanded assistant principals, you've expanded, I don't even know if you still have deans,
No.
but you can only create so much the system can absorb. So what is the criteria for someone to hold this position?
So two different things that we were talking about. Let me just clarify. One would be if we were just raising the salary of a security person, that would be still a relatively moderate wage position. It would be each individual would be getting about $40,000 for their annual salary.
Is there a requirement for the job?
Their requirement would be that they have some language skills and are able to communicate effectively with families, and the principals would be interviewing different existing security staff to get that job. It wouldn't be creating a whole new position. It would be elevating existing security people.
Okay, that's what I'm
with-
asking. The positions existing now, you're looking to raise their salary. What's the criteria for those who are holding the position that would warrant more?
They would have additional responsibility. They would be responsible for student attendance, for calling home and engaging students. Security people don't do that right now. They sit at the front desk and they check people in.
Okay, so who's gonna be doing evaluations?
So now that's the separate position. So that position that I just talked about would cost the district a total of $40,000 across the 3 middle schools. If we were gonna do an administrative position, it would be in the administrative bargaining unit. It would be like the position we created at the high school this year, which is an administrator who's in charge of operations and assessment. Now, the one thing I want to remind everybody of is the volume of assessment that we're doing in this district is through the roof compared to what it used to be. We've got 1/3 of our students taking access testing multiple times a year. Our MCAS retakes, especially for kids who are English learners, and they're allowed to take MCAS to see if they pass. If they don't, then they're allowed to take a retest. The testing is, and the coordination of the testing has gone up exponentially from what it has been in previous years. So that was why we created the position at the high school, because with 2,100 kids up here, it's impossible for Diana Finn to do anything other than testing. It was all she was doing for the whole year. And the middle school principals are saying, we're in a similar boat. We're spending months on end just coordinating the MCAS tests and the access tests that we're required to administer by the state. And if we had an administrative position, not only could they take that over, they could also alleviate some of the work that's falling only on, right now, there's 3 administrators at each middle school to do all of the evaluations of everybody in their building. And as we have increased teachers, and we've had a strong emphasis on that, as we should have for the last several years, but now we're asking the same number of administrators to evaluate 25% more teachers. And that's a tremendous amount of work. With the regulations that came out in 2014 on what we're required to do to conduct a teacher evaluation, it's so much more involved than it used to be. And they're feeling the pressure of that.
So it will be educational requirements for the individual to hold this position.
Those people, yes, would have to have an administrator's
all I
license. Sorry, okay.
So that, to clarify, are you suggesting the campus supervisors and then separate the administrative? Are you asking for
It's 2
both?
separate positions.
It's 2 separate positions. I am advocating for, at a minimum, the security.
Okay, 2 different-
Ideally, it would be the third
middle school
administrator,
to
the
have
additional administrator.
And the.
That would take care of all 3 middle schools.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if the numbers changed, but I know Dr. Lucci sent out a thing about the paras and we'll still seem to be struggling even with the increase to get paras. Is that true?
I don't
We
have that
can
data
do
in
a
front of
much
me.
better
Yeah, I think we,
That's the routine paraprofessional exam that we offer.
No,
in
but he sent
district.
out, he was still short X number.
I think
saw
it was like 6. I think it's pretty small.
Yeah.
Oh, thought
I
it
can
was-
Compared
text
to
him.
Past years, it's been really good,
Mhm.
only because we
Well, I'm not
discussed it
faulting
at
anyone.
the
I just-
health.
My thought was, should we decide to, I think getting the 3 paras of the part of it is more of a, I think the other stuff's great. I don't have a problem with it, but I think getting the 3 paras going for the, because that directly relates to the kids.
Yeah, that
So
would be
I like to-
helpful.
I would like to see, maybe that go to Ways and Means as quickly as we could, and then I'm sure it'll be favorable, and then go to the committee so that we can hire those 3 paras. That's more, to me, it's all great stuff, but that's something that's gonna hit a student right away.
The locks at the Lincoln School, I would say same thing.
No,
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
don't have a problem with any of what you said. I
No,
just, the
me neither.
paras to me was more of an immediate, I guess. That's my thought.
Yeah.
And the locks are fine too. I have no problem with anything.
So then,
No, I gave my comments. I didn't.
yeah,
what I
so,
said.
I'd like to see this, let's go to Ways and Means, once you've given us some numbers, like
Okay.
costs. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that we can act on this quickly, especially the 3 paras, because, school's gonna start next Tuesday, and, they
Mhm.
seem like they're already, I won't say behind, but they're already a little, starting a tough year.
okay, so I'm hearing the next steps are getting projections on these 4 different things, and then it'll be referred to Ways and Means.
And we'll schedule a meeting forthwith.
very good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And then I want to acknowledge the mayor is here, so I'm gonna ask my question and pass it to you for the next item, so you can flow it. My other question for you, Matt,
Yep.
was for the September meeting, could you get us so I guess my question is, I would like to know how much it would cost the district if we changed our transportation requirement from 2 miles to 1 mile? And so I'd just like to know what that number looks like when we're talking about the carry forward.
The problem, the problem, as far as I understand it, is it's not even a question of money. It's we won't be able to find the facility to do it.
Right.
I don't even think it's a money thing. I think if we threw $1 million at it, it's still not gonna help because they can't find the drivers and the buses. So, I mean, it's a great question, and I totally agree. I went to the freshman orientation last night, and 3 parents, that was the thing they talked about.
Hmm.
They were concerned about their kid walking. If I could, and if I'm out of line, I apologize. Maybe this isn't the time or place, but you brought up busing. I was wondering if the mayor would consider a a crossing guard at like Bell Circle.
Mhm.
I know they can't maybe cross 100 kids, but at least if there's an adult there, I see it not every day, but I go through Bell Circle a lot because I'm coming from for work and coming that way.
Everyone sees it, John.
Yeah, and it's literally, I'm not exaggerating, I think hundreds of kids, I don't think that's an exaggeration, crossing, and I know don't all cross at the same point, I've seen them, I've been at the light watching them, but I think if there was one adult there, or maybe two adults, I don't know, and I know they're having a hard time finding crossing guards too, but it's
Well-
just a thought, just to have an adult there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with, you look at a big, intersection or a rotary for that matter, and you see the amount of people that go through there. In order to do it right, you probably need 6.
Yeah.
Like,
So I figured if we start with one,
well, one would be like, honestly, it's like throwing a drop in the bucket
Well,
because you got so many
it's just a
different spots.
Or
Uh,
two different.
So
highways.
even just one and then to the island, to the other side, I mean, to do it right, it would probably need that many. And I think that the priorities tend to be the students of the younger ages that don't know how to cross. Most often you see the students that are crossing, unfortunately, they know how to cross and then they still don't do it properly.
Right.
They cut across the highway.
Looking down.
They take the most direct route to Starbucks or to wherever. So, and as we all know, crossing guards are typically someone that's in a retirement position or is maybe a working parent that's just doing it's a 3.5 hour a day job. So it's not the most lucrative position. So I will definitely talk to Zach. So it isn't, we do have our parking department who controls that and see if that's something.
well, that's
we
why I
can
was
do.
asking you, sir.
Yeah,
It's
we
kind of out of our
will, we
hands.
will see that and see if we can do it.
Yeah.
And educating them and you can never educate a teenager.
Oh, yeah. well,
Because they RMA and the high school cross right there behind the football field and the soccer field, instead of going to the rotary and crossing with the lights. It's just,
They do the other end too, where the fence stops. They
Well, yeah.
cross instead of another 50 yards to the crossing guard.
But I felt, sir, I think the issue is that the one walkway that they have available, it is further away. Do you know what I mean? It's like down
Well, I
past
think you're gonna
Shirley
have trouble with
Ave,
the state
Shirley
because if
Ave,
you start
as opposed to being
stopping
closer to-
every
Mhm.
intersection, every in between lights, you're gonna have a tremendous backup.
If I could, I honestly believe, and I don't mean to be mean, but I honestly believe it's a miracle no one's ever gotten hit.
Oh,
They have.
I think we're in accord, but it's gonna take a little more.
Not
than
going to
just
school.
Waving a
No.
magic wand.
So, yes, good points. I think just to finish off my request, I would
sorry.
like, no, you're fine. I would like to see that. I think, we can't find busing that's separate, but our first step is knowing if we can afford it because we all know that's an issue for students and that's been the top priority for our student council. So I think the first step is just seeing those numbers.
Yep. Just a reminder, when we're dealing with the transportation reality, that's always a joint conversation with city side, because they're actually the ones who
pay for it.
have to get the kids to school. But to do that work and to get something to start the conversation is great.
But as a point of information, all you have is one company bidding.
Hmm.
That's the major problem. And even other lines who may have it, they won't bid against another. I mean, that's my observation. I don't know exactly. So that's,
Uh,
if the money's there and it's agreed upon, that's still gonna create a.
There is a bill in legislation for that, but that's been sitting there for 2 years, so.
But Matt, isn't there a question on how much far away they are from the school for reimbursement? So if we go 1 mile, it might not be reimbursable.
Right, that's the work that I'll be able to do with Denise. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want to, I think so. I'll pass it to you, Mayor. We are now on the student activity accounts report. Matt?
Yep, so each year we're required to do two things with the committee. One is make sure you know who has fiduciary responsibility for each of the existing local student activity checking accounts and what the maximum amount of local money can be in that account, and you approve that. Right now, we've got them all slotted at 10, and the high school's moved up primarily because of big costs that hit in that month of May, June. We don't want to handcuff them. I'm gonna reach out this year to the 3 middle school principals and just make sure that the 10,000 is not causing them any kind of an issue with the costs that could be associated with that. But for now, we're just gonna vote them where they are. I haven't received any complaints, but I can seek that out. And then the second thing, you are the ones who approve or just have to be in the know about. These are the activities. that the students are operating out of our high school. Just so that you're aware that the principal is managing this, but you know the different clubs that exist. So at the 6 o'clock meeting, we just need you to take a vote each August to say, yes, this is a good plan, and go ahead with it.
So when we approve the consent calendar, that means we are approving the accounts when someone has issues with it. Food service financials now, there were no. Communications,
So one is this request from Jonathan Ferrara to get rid of old technology equipment. He's done his due diligence to determine whether any of it is salvageable or could be sold off. And is just requesting permission to get rid of the stuff that cannot be repurposed at all. And then the second, you probably haven't even seen these yet because I know Robin was still getting them into mailboxes just before you were all arriving, but it's the annual review for our 2 innovation schools, which I completed. And I do want to point out that it does say that it was due August 1st. It's actually not due till September 1st. But I'm required to review their work and submit this to Desi and submit it to you all as well. So I'm going to be sending that on to Desi. I want to give you all a copy if you have any questions on them.
Did they give you feedback of any sort?
I think that maybe if they had a little more capacity, they would, but typically, no, we don't.
And if we renew it to the
Yeah,
plan.
they'll be more involved in City Lab because this is only their 3rd year. But Paul Revere, because they've been through multiple cycles, they're kind of
and
flying on their own.
on the back end, what they do is that they do save them. So every time they renew,
Yeah.
someone had to read through all these. Someone does actually sit, read, gather evidence, and then use that when they do the focus groups and interviews for the renewals.
Yeah.
Okay. Enrollment.
John, thank you for pointing out
I had a stroke, yeah.
the error. I was like, what? We're down by 1,000 students? And then I'm like, this math is off somewhere, but so we found it.
Says the math teacher.
Pardon me?
Says the math teacher.
Yes, yes. But overall, I'll just say that our class sizes are looking pretty good. As I mentioned earlier, there are those hiccups at the Paul Revere School where class size is larger than what we would like. And you see the difference there, especially around grades 2, 3, and 4 compared to our other schools. But otherwise,
It looks pretty good, actually.
yeah,
Mhm.
yep, better, much better than they had been when we
Yeah.
had 28s and 29s everywhere.
Yeah.
On the middle, oh, quickly,
Mhm.
real quickly, on the middle schools, on the RMA, do they, what is the middle schools, are those homes?
Those are homerooms,
Okay.
yes, and
So at RMA, they team up, is that what?
yes. So
I was
at
looking the
Garfield
numbers
Middle,
and, you know, the
yeah.
Numbers look off.
Yeah, that's why Garfield Middle, the numbers look much smaller because it's an individual who's in charge. At SBA, at Rumney, they pair them up. Yeah. And at SBA, they do that also, but they only list the name of the primary person whose homeroom it is in. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Rumney's enrollment is higher because they house a lot of the special education programming.
Anything else? Personnel. Any questions on our 100 new teachers?
Diane, on some of the hires, their background doesn't match what you hired them for. People still get granted waivers and stuff like that.
In some cases, yes, yep,
So that would be something.
Yep.
Thank you.
far fewer than what we've had in the past.
And
Wow.
to renew, it's more difficult to
Yeah.
renew a waiver. You have to show progress in the area.
I didn't, well, I know they keep changing what's done,
Mm.
but I mean, it had to be something that, because it didn't match.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's nice to see that some of them have come back because
Yeah.
they're all set now.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
What about donations?
So one is a great one, and I actually can add to this as well, but So JetBlue does a book donation program through Scholastic, and they're donating 100 books to the Beachmont School. And they're also connecting with Matt Costa because they're going to be doing a STEM program for female students. And we're going to connect with him and get some of the young ladies in the district engaged in that STEM program. So it should be pretty interesting. So we're very thankful to JetBlue for their support. We also just found out about a program that actually Jess Janino championed at the State House to get, it's another program through Scholastic. And what they do is they partner with us. They're going to partner with us at all of our elementaries and all of our middle schools. And it's called the Read Across the American, I'm going to get the name wrong, so let me try not to do it off the top of my head. I'll find it for you in a minute. But they're going to give every single student in the elementary and middle schools is each going to be able to buy 10 books free, get 10 books free. And they do it through their Scholastic book clubs, which we use at many of the elementary schools already. So the families are familiar with it, but they won't have to pay a dime for them. And the kids can go on and pick what books they're interested in. And then their parent approves them. And they're going to also give every teacher 25 books for their classroom libraries that the teachers can pick. And then they're going to continue to do this every year going forward.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of philanthropical groups that they're working with, but also convincing state legislatures to participate and donate some of the funding. So I know the state of Massachusetts, under Jess's leadership, gave $750,000 for Massachusetts alone, and it's just going to be a handful of districts that are participating in this, and Revere gets to be one of them. So we're really excited about that. And we're going to be scheduling soon a meeting with the principals to figure out the logistics of it all. But we'll be kicking that off probably around November and doing some media around that. And we'll invite you all. But
Certainly justifies the cost. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about the book,
The
you know,
book
the book
fairs.
fairs, you know.
Right,
and,
yeah.
like, how expensive they are, but I guess now having an understanding of the give back, it's
yeah,
it's well worth it, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
Very
the
exciting.
program, the STEM program that you
Yep.
were talking about for women, is that at Beachmont also,
It's
or?
at the airport. It's at the JetBlue hangar. And so they bus to all the students who we want to send over there for a full day.
Are there certain students? How are they going
We're-
to be picking them?
We're still going to connect with them to get the logistics on that. And once we speak to JetBlue more specifically, we'll identify students and do the typical field trip kind of thing with parent
Good.
permission. And
And it's on a Saturday, I believe, in October. And so the JetBlue connection is actually an alum of our district who went to the Beachmont School, which is
That's
why
right.
we could do that. So a big thank you to Donnie from JetBlue for remembering the school and everything.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, it is 5:58, so I was wondering if maybe everyone's okay with moving what's left to unfinished business at the 6 p.m. since there's still 3 points. Are folks okay with that?
Everyone good with that?
Yes, sir.
I have one last request. When I spoke about the nursing, if we can look into it to go towards Ways and Means. If maybe you could collaborate with Dr. Galucci on what we've talked about.
Yep. Okay. And then when John coordinates that meeting, I can mention to him to get on the agenda.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay.